I'd like to call the December 18th, 2014 meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School District back to order, please. Item 4.0, the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Nina Saferstein, a 12th grade student from George Washington Carver School of Arts and Sciences High School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
To catch my breath, I ran here.
No, just read.
Nina Saferstein is a senior at George Washington Carver School of Arts and Science, where she serves as the treasurer for student government. Nina is consistently on the honor roll and loves to volunteer her time in her community. In the past, she has aided in several environmental cleanup efforts at the American River and presently is volunteering with the Sacramento Food Bank, offering support during the busy holiday season. Nina's community involvement extends to her role as student organizer. Nina has been instrumental in building awareness and the issues surrounding a developer's plan for a controversial gun club near her school. She developed surveys, organized a rally at the Rancho Cordova City Council meeting, and set up community meetings with individual council members. She is now researching changing the zoning codes that would prevent all gun-related developments near her schools in the future. Nina wants to pursue this passion for student organizing in college. She has applied to many schools, but she hopes to attend either the University of San Francisco or the University of Washington as a political science or public policy major. The Board of Education is proud to recognize Nina Saferstein as our stellar student.
Microphone is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to have this award. It's been amazing working with you, Christina, for the past few months, and I'm so thankful for your support with the Gun Club and the support of everyone on the board with your resolution. Thank you.
We have a little certificate of appreciation. Thank you. Item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session.
Yes, Mr. President. One item to be announced out of closed session. The board, by 6 affirmative votes, with board member Rodriguez absent due to a memorial service she attended on behalf of the board, approved OAH case number 2014-040-297 regarding a student matter. That's the end of the announcements out of closed session, Mr. President.
Thank you. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. Entertain a motion. I have a motion from Vice President Pritchett with a second by Vice President Hansen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7.0, special presentation. 7.1, recognition of the parent-teacher home visit program for achieving the 2014 CSBA Golden Bell Award. Vice President Pritchett, would you? Lost it?
Yeah, I don't have it.
No. You did it, so.
Our apologies. So a couple months ago, I learned that the CSBA offers a Golden Bell, which is the California School Board Association, offers a Golden Bell Award to several categories for their development in parent leadership, and I can't remember. New and innovative projects. And I had nominated the Parent Teacher Home Visit Project for this award. And there were 250 nominees in this category. They were chosen of one of four that received the Golden Bell Award. We attended a luncheon on Tuesday, and it was my great honor to be able to walk the stage with Miss Lisa Lavasser. If she's here, there she is, peeking around. And I just like to congratulate the Parent Teacher Home Visit Project, and I believe that they brought the bell with them. And we'd love to see it. And a few words from Lisa.
Okay. So I just want to take a minute to do some thank yous. I'm very humbled by this, just to begin with. I always think of myself as I'm a teacher, and I teach kids, and I get to teach other teachers and work with principals, and I feel very honored. And so I want to first start by thanking all of you in front of me. The Home Visit Project would not be where it is if you didn't support it over the many years. Started in '98 and has been around in Sacramento and is the leader in Sacramento and is the leader in the nation. We're in 17 states now, and it started here at 8 schools. So that's exciting. So thank you. Thank you, Board Member Pritchett. Thank you, Board Member Wu, for your support at the luncheon. Thank you, Mr. Banda, for being there. Thank you to Mua. She's here somewhere, wherever Tu is. Thank you for your support. But really, this award would not have happened. It would not even be possible. We got the award for home visits and academic parent-teacher teams. Those two combinations, those two strategies together are showing some amazing results with kids, with families, with teachers, with principals. And so there's no way it would have been possible if I didn't have the support of the teachers and principals. Some of them are here today, so I would really like them to stand up. Stand up, principals over here. They're kind of divided. The principals are over here, and the teachers are kind of over here. So. This is just a very, 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 very minute part of our 38 schools that are doing home visits and academic parent-teacher teams. But we have Nicholas, and we have Wilsey Wood, and we have Camellia Basic, and Oak Ridge, and Fern Bacon, and Nicholas again, and Edward Kimball, and F.L.I. Baker, and these schools are doing amazing things, and I encourage you to come out. I will send you all the meeting dates in January and February to see these meetings. Parents are becoming empowered and learning along with their kids. It's really amazing to see. And I also want to thank two more groups. SCTA has also been a phenomenal support for us over the years. And I could not have done this work without David over the past 5 years in my role and just SCTA in general. So David and Nikki, thank you. Here you are. And there's no way that this could have happened without our founding parents and Carrie Rose, who also started the project or was the executive director, or still is the executive director, of the national work now. So Yesenia Gonzalez and Carrie Rose are my rock, so thank you so much for that. So, again, I will email you all the dates. Thank you so much for being so supportive. I really, truly appreciate it. And if you want to go out on a home visit, I will send you anytime, especially the new board members. All the other board members, I think, have been out, but I encourage you all to go on a home visit and go to an academic parent-teacher team meeting. Thank you.
Member Arroyo.
Lisa, we have a few things.
Member Arroyo.
Thank you, President Wu. No. I mean, I'm not going to post questions or anything, but just wanted to say, number one, thank you for the work. I remember meeting Yesenia the very first year that I was elected board member 6 years ago, and went on a home visitation, or a home visit. And it's so basic, it's so important. I mean, you think, it's no genius idea, to do it, but the work is very transcendental. And to the fact that it's getting national attention and recognition, and it's flourishing throughout the country, and Sacramento seen as the birthplace of this new effort to really connect schools, teachers, parents, and to really close the gaps in order to ensure the achievement of every child. So thank you for that. But also wanted to do two things. Recognize the work of the entire district and anyone that has anything to do with it, because yet another great example of the great things that are going at Sacramento City Unified School District that are transcendental, that are important, that are impacting our children. And many times we talk about doing better publicity or highlighting and showing the things that are going great. And there are many things that are going great in this district. And the work that you do, the recognition that you're getting, it's testament to the work that is going on in this district. And to dovetail into my second point here is I really wanted to thank Vice President Pritchett, because it was her personal time commitment to ensure that the application went in for the project to get considered for this award is what culminates the work that you guys have been doing in this recognition. And so Vice President Pritchett, thank you, because your work really highlights not only to the district and to the people working within the district, but to the entire community and the country of the great things that are going here. So thank you for the great work, and thank you for bringing this to light.
Vice President Pritchett.
I know I've said this a million times to you, but I'd like for everyone in this room to hear this, that I am so very proud to be part of your board and the work that you're doing. And I know that you see firsthand how you impact the families and how it's affecting, our students in such a great and honorable way. I know I have a daughter in high school, and when she was in junior high school, we were the very first family that received a home visit at Einstein Middle School. And I remember getting the phone call and thinking, oh my gosh, what did my daughter do?
That's what most parents think.
And I was so scared. But when they came, it was such an uplifting and energetic interview. And since then, speaking with parents that have not had some good times with teachers, and then those very teachers go to their homes, and it just turns them completely around, and it makes them excel in school, is just a very important project. So I really look forward to the growth of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Lavasser. Another sentence?
Yeah.
You want to say something else?
Oh, I just wanted to say that we work closely with the Parent Resource Center and the parents as partners, and my whole world came just full circle today. I walked into presenting at a Parents as Partners meeting, and I was a teacher in this district for a while, and I walked in, and the translator at the meeting was a former student of mine, and she's thriving. She is at Sac State, and her brother is doing really well at Kennedy. And I was, you're always shocked when they remember you because they've had so many teachers. And she's like, are you kidding? You came to my home. So that's why we do it. So thank you.
You got to ring the bell.
Item 7.2. I see a lot of faces that we don't normally see in the board, and I think most of you are waiting for item 7.2, and we are here to welcome new board members to our board. And so we're taking this moment to take a ceremonial oath of office given to the board members, and I'm going to take them in order. So for Board Member Ellen Cochran, would you like to join Pat Lynch down in front? You need an oath? Okay. Member Rodriguez?
Thank you, President Wu. I was wondering if the board would join me, I'd like to have us all stand in solidarity with our newly sworn in board members, just so that we can help celebrate everybody and give them honor and their presence being sworn in before everyone today. So if we can all stand, thank you.
After you. Congratulations. I'm gonna exercise my president's responsibilities and call next Miss Jessie, member Jessie Ryan, who will be sworn in by her mother, Amber Kathleen Ryan.
Okay. I, Jesse, good.
I, Jessie Ryan,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support or defend the Constitution of the United States
of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or
that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Vice President Jay Hansen by Jesse Kaplan.
I, Jay Hansen,
I, Jay Hansen,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States, the State of California, let me read that sentence again. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose, that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
And last but not least, myself, sworn in by California Supreme Court Chief Justice Tani Cantil Sakaue.
This I know. I know this. I got this.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Darrell Wu,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter. Thank you. Before we're going to take a recess, so we have a little bit of refreshments, I believe, in the cafe next door. And I just want to remind all those who have been newly sworn in that not only do you have your oath of office, but your signature must be on there, as well as the person who swore you in. So with that, let's take a 30-minute recess. So at this point, we are moving on to item 7.3. Nope, we just did that. 7.4, Annual Organization Meeting of the Board of Education. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our board secretary.
That's organization.
Yeah, it's both.
Do you want me to read this?
Oh, got it.
No, before we go to public comment.
Call for any nominations. I think we're moving right into election of officers. So do we have any nominations for president?
Vice President Pritchett.
I would like to suggest that the board move the current slate of officers forward due to the fact that they've only been in office for 4 months after the departure of Member Kennedy.
So I'm hearing a nomination for the slate of officers, the current slate of officers, which is President Wu, Vice President Pritchett, and Second Vice President Hanson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All. Oh. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have a unanimous vote, 7-0, to move the slate of officers, current slate of officers forward. So congratulations to the President, Vice President, and Second Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Okay, before we move to item 8.0, public comment, I'd like Vice President Pritchett to read the admonition.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption, with the exception of technical problems on Metro Cable TV 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Today's meeting will air on Sunday, December 21st at 9 a.m., Monday, December 22nd at noon, and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located in the back of the community room and give it to Chief Communications Officer Mr. Ross prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Responses to the questions by the public will be posted on the district website prior to the next board meeting. Please limit comments during public comment to the items not listed on the agenda. If you are found to be commenting on an item that is on the agenda, you will be asked to defer your item until the item comes up on the agenda. Please turn off all cell phones or place them in the silent or vibrate mode.
Thank you. So, 8.0, public comment.
We have 3 comments on 8.0 from Nikki Malevsky, Angie Sutherland, and Grace Trujillo.
Good evening, members of the board. Nikki Malevsky, President of Sacramento City Teachers Association. We are again having to express our disappointment with the district leadership on the healthcare change plan to change our healthcare. We had hoped when PERB issued a complaint that recognized SCTA had established a prima facie case that the district acted unlawfully, the district would reconsider its position. We compared it to a runaway train that was going over a cliff, and we hoped that the superintendent would step in to protect the healthcare safety of teachers and the financial integrity of the district. When we met yesterday with the superintendent, we were all stunned to hear that he admitted that he had done nothing to even look into how to stop this train wreck, and that he had no intention of doing anything to intervene before January 1, when the harm begins and the financial risk to this district starts to add up. It took us over a month to get the district to meet and explain the healthcare plan changes. We're not even sure why they bothered. The district still can't explain, among other things, a default plan for retirees who are out of area, who've been unable to enroll, how retirees who cannot afford an initial month's payment will be able to enroll, the process for reimbursement for any participant who has experienced a higher cost for services than the plans that were negotiated, the process by which participants who can't afford to pay the upfront costs for services, including life-saving prescriptions, while waiting to be reimbursed, how will they be insured to receive health care that they need? We also, once again, raised the extreme difficulty that both actives and retirees have had of getting their phone calls returned and their questions answered. Finally, we were shocked to learn that while you and other representatives of the district have attempted to crisis manage your way out of this mess by claiming the district will purportedly save $6 million with the unlawful health care changes, there in fact is no district analysis that exists to justify how those savings will be generated. We further learned that the purported $6 million in savings was a number provided orally by Keenan and Associates, the only party in this endeavor that appears to be profiting. And then there is no written analysis on their part to back up their claims. Nobody, either the district or Keenan, appears to have even attempted to quantify the enormous financial exposure the district faces based on its hold harmless promise, or the potential lawsuits the district will inevitably face by anyone who's been harmed by the district's inability to access healthcare services that were previously provided. And no one denies that the money purportedly generated from the savings is being used to boost the take-home pay for administrators. How outrageous is that? Benefit cuts for the teachers to provide wage increases for administrators and the most highly paid people in this district. We know that HealthNet remains available, and even at this late date in the implementation of the healthcare changes to teachers can be stopped. The district has refused to even look into that. suggestion, just as it has rejected our offer to arbitrate this dispute immediately so that the teachers and families are not harmed and that the district's financial resources are protected. Even at this late date, no district representative, including the overpaid outside attorneys, can provide any legal basis which would allow these changes in our health plans to occur. Despite the gravity of the situation, the district failed to appear at the informal settlement conference required by PERB on December 15th, and then further notified PERB that it was not available for the remainder of the month. Because of the district's unwillingness to honor its commitments, we've now been forced to ask PERB for an injunction of the unlawful health care changes in our effort to protect teachers and their families and ultimately the children of the school district. Your legal arguments are non-existent. Your financial arguments can't withstand the slightest scrutiny. PERB is telling you that you're wrong, and yet the district just recklessly forges ahead, contrary to the agreement that this board ratified. Our district, which includes the motto of a commitment to put children first, deserves better. Thank you for your time tonight.
Ms. Milewski.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Angie Sutherland. I'm a parent at Hollywood Park, and my daughter just started going there this year, and I just wanted to, first off, say congratulations and thank you to the elected board members and the returning board members. Thank you for your service to the district. And I just finished the Office of Family and Community Engagement Parent Leadership Pathway Tier 2 on Wednesday. So I completed that with a group of other parents, and it was really awesome. It was at Hollywood Park, and I just wanted to thank Kathy Morrison, who's been facilitating the sessions. Kathy is such a warm and welcoming and supportive staff member in the district, and also the Terry Sheffield. She runs the Parent Resource Center at the school site, and there hasn't been a day, even from the very first day that I went there for orientation, that Terry hasn't come up to me and welcomed me and also my daughter into that school. So I just feel that it's been such a positive experience at this school, and the parents and teachers are just so wonderful to work with, and the principal as well. So I just wanted to say that and say thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, and Joe Bandera. My name is Grace Trujillo, and today I want to talk about middle schools. I know I got an opportunity, since I'm a stay-home mom, to visit all the different middle schools and evaluate the pros and cons of each one. But there's two schools that I would like to talk about that I think parents should look into. One of them is San Brennan, and the other one's Cal Middle. I know when I first started 10 years ago, Sutter was one of the schools that it wasn't a desirable school to go into. But because the parents got involved and they changed it around, and now it has over 1,200 enrollment compared to the other middle schools. But one thing people haven't noticed, that over the years, even though it has a reputation of Sutter being the best, they need to look at other middle schools, because other middle schools also provide very good programs and resources. And I have to thank the Crocker parents that made Cal Middle what it is now. And what they did now, they have so many options. After school programs, tutoring, electives, it's a small environment. I came from a small high school, and I think it's better to have 600 children instead of 1,200. And another thing is that the APR scores are similar to Sutter, and they offer all these different programs. I guess I'm just talking out loud, and maybe I shouldn't say what school I want my son to go to, because then it's going to be impacted in the next couple of years, But I know for my son, besides the fact that he adores Miss Egan, and he wants to go there, besides the fact he didn't want to, go with his friends, I think that says a lot to the school. And the fact that It has a free reduced lunch. I think other parents should consider it. I'm not saying Sutter is not a good school, but consider all your other options as well as Sam Brannan, because Sam Brannan has the similar situation, has all the same incentives and programs, and also they has for special kids with special needs, they have all this variety. So Sam Brannan in middle school, I would strongly recommend parents. And like I said, maybe I shouldn't be saying it too loud because later on it's going to be impacted just like Sutter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. Item 9.0, consent agenda. 9.1, item subject or not subject to closed session. Do I hear a motion to move? Oh, we have a, sorry about that, Gabe.
No problem. We have comments from Mr. Ralph Merletti on items 9.1E and 9.1F.
I'm Ralph Merletti from the Fruit Ridge area of Sacramento County. And good evening, Superintendent Banda and the school board, those newly elected and those continuing. Congratulations to all of you. And what I have to say about, the first one is about the trip to McClatchy High School, trip to Spokane, Washington State at Gonzaga University for a debate tournament, the field trip up there. And as I usually like to do with these situations, I'm highly enthusiastic about these trips. But I also recommend that the students and those with them take a look out, since this is a flight up there. The path, actually, I looked at the map, and it's a rather deserted area between Sacramento and Spokane. You pass over the part of the Great Basin and the Columbia Basin to the north. Well, so if you want to see, you can see some interesting scenery. I don't know if they'll see any major landmarks, being sort of an out-of-the-way area, but I highly recommend everybody who can look out the window of the airplane occasionally and see what the Earth looks like 6 to 8 miles up. I mean, get your money's worth out of the flight. That's what I say on that. So again, best wishes to all of them on that endeavor. And should I comment on the next one now? Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
19 seconds.
Now 9.1F. This was in the public comment section of the minutes for, November 18th or 20th, which, let's see, what did we have here? November 20th, 2014, and it mentions that I was in the process of gathering reports and photos from Earl Warren Elementary School, Sutter Middle School, and George Washington Carver High School. I'm sorry I don't have anything further to report on that. Perhaps the best idea for me when I have time, when I'm not working and it's a school day, is to visit these sites individually and actually see what I can come up with on that. Meanwhile, all of you have been given a copy of this. All of you have been given a copy of a collage I've made of the solar eclipse as I observed it from the grounds of St. Rose Parish, specifically St. Patrick Academy. And though you also have a report with that, again, this time in black and white, and comparing the two together, it should make an interesting photo and verbal, how would you say it, printed description of what went on. So that's what I have to say on that. And hopefully I can come up with some kind of collage of pictures of from those three Sacramento City USD schools that I mentioned. So that's what I have to say on that. And enjoy, everybody. This was my 27th solar eclipse since my first one in 1954. So just keep going. And it says, as it says in the report, the next one's a little less than 3 years from now. And I've picked coast to coast from Oregon to South Carolina, and I thinking about a spot on the Idaho-Oregon border, probably some of the area that might be seen from the plane. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Okay, back to item 9.1 then. I have a motion to move the consent calendar by Vice President Pritchett. I have a second. I have a second from Second Vice President Hansen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 10.0, Board Workshop Strategic Plan and Other Initiatives. 10.1, approve the 2015-2016 budget calendar. Ronald?
Okay, I think I will start while I was coming up. Okay. Good evening, President Wood, Superintendent Banda, and members of the board. The process of developing a school district budget is an ongoing process that must be approved by the board throughout the school year. In order to effectively develop a fiscal document that reflects the goals and objectives of the school district, the budget process must include a well-defined budget calendar outlining when specific activities will be completed. I will touch some of the key items that we will go through the board, mainly the ones that the board will need input. There are many steps that we do to develop a budget. The ones we will cover are those require board input. In December, something that we already accomplished here was the first annual report, because it helped us determine what our estimated ending balance will be, that it will help us for 2015-16. Later on in the next item, we will also discuss the independent audit report. In January, the key item here is the governor's budget proposal and his recommendations. There are many experts for say, but really we go by the governor's budget proposal. That is our starting point for developing the budget. We will give you an update based on the January 22nd, especially if it is significantly different than what we went over the first interim. In February, we will present to you potential 2015-16 budget reductions for your action. Yes, we are not, at this point in time, we are not expecting any general fund reductions, but we have grants that end, so the funding ends. Therefore, we will have to present the reductions to you. And in March, we will ask you to approve the certificated layoff notice in order to meet the March 15 deadline. Please know that we do everything possible to bring those positions back. We do everything possible. However, we only have one opportunity to notify certificated employees, and if we don't meet that deadline, we will have to pay them even in the grant ends. So that's the March 15 notice. And we will also try to do classifier at the same time, but we usually do that a month later. We have until April to do that if needed. May. So what is the key item then? Is the May revised report. And really that's the May revised is what we use to prepare the budget. It's not passed yet. Oftentimes we pass the budget before the state budget. So, but that's our final guideline. Any changes. Sometimes it's very similar as January. Sometimes it's very different. Like I was surprised last year. You remember that we were expecting so much funding at the January, but it came the May revise. We got a surprise of the increases in CalSTRS and CalPERS. So that's what we do in May. So this is where we will have your final recommendations. In June, and we also have in January, please notice that we will also have the board approval of the LCAP. This budget calendar is not the same thing as the LCAP. It's line in line. We need to meet two 8 codes. But I this is what requires your approval. There will be meetings, probably 1 or 2 meetings throughout the month, but by the time it gets through June, we must approve the LCAT prior to approving the adopted budget. And in June, we hope to have a balanced budget for 2015-16. At this point in time, we don't expect any major reductions. We are in, I think it's for the first time I say that we feel like we are in decent, good shape, but we don't know until the governor presents his budget, and then we go through the may revise. The next steps, as you know, we continue working with the Sacramento County Office of Education. They are the sounding board. They expect certain reports for us, certain communications, and in January, you are welcome to attend. We will try to give you at least a word communication what the governor's proposal it is. So at this time, we are open up for questions, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have no public comment. Are there any questions from my colleagues? No questions from my colleagues? Okay. Then we'll move from conference to, I have a motion to move from conference to action. I have a motion from Member Arroyo and a second by Vice President Pritchett to move from conference to action. Now I'm entertain a motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget calendar. Oh, procedures. Sorry. So we have a motion to move and a second from conference to action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Now, I would entertain a motion to approve the calendar. I have a motion by Vice President Pritchett with a second by Member Arroyo. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10.2, Independent Audit Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2014.
Good evening again, President Booth, Superintendent Banda, and members of the board. Before we present the 2013-14 audit report, I want to publicly thank Amari Watkins, Director of Accounting, and Michael Smith, Director of Finance, and their staff for their hard work to get this audit report done. There is hundreds of hours behind the scene. Just to share, we actually had between 4 to 5 auditors about a month during the fiscal year. They come for 2 weeks during the spring, and again 2 weeks later during the fall. So there's a lot of work that goes through to get this report done. Now I will present to you Elizabeth Sass. She's a senior manager with Crow Hardware. She has over 9 years experience auditing school districts, and she will present to you the 2013-14 audit report.
Good evening.
Thank you for being so patient with us.
Of course, this was a walk in the park compared to some of the meetings I've been to in the last couple of weeks. All right. So I wanted to walk through the 2 items that you have. You have a letter, and then you have the giant report. So I'm going to go over the letter, and then we'll talk about items in the report, and then I'll answer any questions that you guys might have. On the letter, this is what we call our SAS 114 letter. It's our required audit communications that we provide to our boards. The first page speaks particularly about management's responsibility and more specifically about our responsibility as your auditors. So the financial statements are management's responsibility. Everything that you see in the report, all those numbers, all the details, that's actually management's responsibility. We assist them in compiling it and putting it all together, but our responsibility is to audit it. And so what that means is we don't look at 100% of your transactions. We do everything based off of a risk assessment. We use materiality thresholds, and then we use sampling as we move forward and test all of your transaction cycles in the district. So I just wanted to kind of lay out what we do. Sometimes it's a little confusing what the scope of the audit is. And now I will talk more about, when I get to the report, of the specific areas that we do look into. On the second page of that letter, it talks about any new significant accounting policies or standards that have come out in the current year. GASB 66 and GASB 67 were new in the current year. They did not have a material impact, if any impact at all, on your financial statements. GASB 68 is coming down the pipeline for next year. It's going to have a very significant impact on every single governmental entity's financial statements. So as we move towards that year, we can have more conversations about what that's going to mean. But fortunately, we didn't have to deal with that this year. And just so you know, GASB 68, there's a whole paragraph on it in the financial statements, and I'll point that out to you when we get over to the report. And you can peruse all of that language at your leisure. On page 3, these are your significant accounting estimates in your financial statements. There are several estimates in your financials. The local control funding formula, that's your revenue limit as you used to know it. It's now the LCFF calculation. It is an estimate. As you know, the state can kind of monkey with those numbers and assumptions as they want. But it is an estimate that we have looked at all of management's calculations, and we are opining that they are reasonable. And of the most interest to most boards is on page 4, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. So corrected misstatements are what are known as audit adjustments. As you can see, there were no corrected misstatements, so that is excellent results for the district. Uncorrected misstatements is actually, those are more common to come across because those may be misstatements that are not material to the financial statements, but we would still have a requirement to report them to you. But as you can see, again, there were no such misstatements, so excellent work on your management's team. Other communications that you see there, these are all required items. We are just positively affirming all of these to you that there were no significant difficulties encountered. We didn't have any disagreements with management. Any of these kinds of items, if they were to come up throughout the audit, we would be contacting the board prior to today. So we're just positively affirming that everything went smoothly. All right. Any questions on the letter before I move over to the report?
I have one question. That term, monkeying around with stuff, is that a CPA term?
Yes. Yes, it is. In governmental accounting, it is. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. So moving over to the financial statements, it gets longer and longer every year. Page 1 and 2, just after the table of contents, this is our opinion on your financial statements. So we render, I think, 4 different opinions. This opinion is on the financial statements that you're going to see in the next following pages. And at the bottom of page 1, it says opinion. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities and the various components of Sac City's financial statements. That is what we would call an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion that you can receive at the result of an audit. If you continue past those 2 pages, that's going to be management's discussion and analysis. It just gives you a good overview of what's happened in the last year. And then starting on page 13, those are the district's financial statements. So page 13 and 14 is the full accrual, what you would see as in a normal, a non-governmental business. This is what you would see. You've got your long-term assets on your capital assets. You've got your long-term debt on there. So this is your full accrual balance sheet. And then when you get over to page 15, this is what you're typically more accustomed to seeing on a quarterly basis, and these are your fund financials. All right, I'll move you over to where most of the time board members typically just skip right to this page, but it's page 82. And this is a nice summary of all of our audits that we do. So as I mentioned, we rendered 4 opinions. We rendered an opinion on your financial statements. We rendered an opinion on your state compliance requirements. We rendered an opinion on your federal compliance requirements, and then your first 5 program that you participate in. So the financial statements, as I mentioned, was unmodified. We had no internal control material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no non-compliance material to the financial statements noted. So excellent results. The federal awards, we also issued an unmodified opinion. You can see listed below, those 4 federal programs are the ones that we were required to audit this year. And then state compliance, this is a qualified opinion, and I'm going to talk about why it's qualified in a second. So any questions on that page? Overall, excellent results for the district. And as Gerardo said, it is a lot of work that goes into these audits. We do sit on your campus for about a month and ask a lot of questions. All right, so the reason that state compliance opinion is qualified is because there are a few compliance findings. The state has a whole laundry list of areas that we're required to look into. If there's anything that is slightly off from what they expect, maybe a form wasn't signed and dated for like kindergarten continuance, maybe it wasn't signed and dated appropriately, we have to report it. So it's very difficult to actually get an unmodified opinion on state awards. But if you look at page 88, this is the start of the state award findings. We had the unduplicated local control funding formula pupil counts. This had everything to do with CalPADS reporting and what was going into your LCFF percentages. We had to audit this for the first time this year. And so because of the finding that we had to extrapolate this finding over the district. We only had, I think, 8 students that we noted in all of the sites that we went to, but because of the audit rules, we have to extrapolate that error over every single site that the district has. And then the state, whoever wrote this compliance requirement, said that we needed to report every single school site and that particular error rate to it. And so that's why there are about 20 additional pages that this finding consists of. But if you scroll past all of those 20 pages and get to like, 110, this is going to give you the results. So the fiscal impact at the top of page 110, it essentially adjusts your percentage that gets applied to your LCFF calculation. And so the fiscal impact is a reduction in revenues of $278,000 approximately. Now, what that means to the district, we are not sure. A lot of times when these kind of new requirements come out, a lot of districts are having findings because of the newness and the intricacies of it. So a lot of times the state will offer out a waiver with any fiscal impact. That's what we're hoping we're going to see. But Sac City is not alone in this finding. We've had it at a lot of our districts. We have about 100 districts, and probably about half of them had findings. So we're hoping that the state will actually waive it. And if you go over to page 111, there was an attendance finding as well, but pretty minimal impact there as far as the ADA goes. And then kindergarten continuance. I think there was a anniversary date or something on one of the forms that wasn't inputted. So any questions on those that I could answer? Yeah.
Member Hanson.
I had a question about the GASB 68. It's changing. Can you tell me what's going to happen in the
Yes.
what kind of changes we could expect in the future?
Yes, so GASB 68, if you go to page 33, it's going to give you a little blurb about what it is. But this is nationwide, and what it is if you participate in any pension plans like CalSTRS and CalPERS, pretty much every pension plan across the nation is underwater. And so anybody participating in that is going to have to record the liability, their share, their proportionate share of that liability on their balance sheet. It's not going to affect your fund financials. It's going to be a reporting that you saw on page 13. It's going to show up there. It's kind of similar to how the OPEB was functioning. So CalSTRS, we've actually been working with them and trying to assist them in figuring out, okay, what all of the districts in California, what is their proportionate share? So they're going to be sending out to the district saying, this is your percentage, this is our unfunded liability, calculate what your liability is.
So that'll just be for pensions and not our unfunded healthcare costs? Or would that also be included at some future point or at that same time?
That would not be included in the CalSTRS amount, no.
Is that listed anywhere now in the financials as a?
Yeah,
the OPEB.
The OPEB is listed in the financials. There's a footnote. There's a footnote.
A footnote now, so it's not required to be part of the kind of more
No,
formal
it's separate.
line yet.
It's listed. We don't have to fund it, but it's listed in it reduces. That's the reason is our fund reduces a lot.
If you go to footnote 10, I think that's what you're talking about there. That is GASB 45. That came out several years ago, and you weren't required to record the entire liability as you see it there. I think it's $182 million, but it changes because it's an actuarial estimate. But it's a similar idea. But CalSTRS and CalPERS, you're going to be recording your full proportionate share of the liability.
Thank you.
Unfunded is $611 million.
$111 million. Okay. And that's for all employees?
Yes.
And is that's just retirees, or is that including current employees until to this date today? Our liability going forward?
That's the liability going forward.
Thank you.
Before I call you Member Rodriguez, would you beg your indulgence? I neglected to see that we have some public speakers.
Still continue with the
Are
presentation.
you done with your report?
I am.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, you're
Okay.
done?
So
Yeah,
do you mind
I've
if we
covered
call
mine.
the people with
Sure. Mm-hmm.
No. I begged your indulgence, so thank you. Mr. Ross.
We have 3 comments on 10.2 from Karen Sweat, Nikki Malevsky, and Grace Trujillo.
Good evening. My name is Karen Sweat, and I'm here tonight representing Making Sense Work. And we look forward every year to the audit for one page. In this audit, we were happy to see, can't see, page 68, that the unaudited actuals were accurate because we like to work on trends. We're more interested in trends than we are in projections. And I believe you all got a copy of one of the trends that we were able to complete once we knew that the unaudited actuals were correct. We do try to wait every year for the audit to be completed before we start sharing out our trend worksheets. So you can see the trend worksheet for the ending fund balance, because this is something that's constantly being talked about in this district. And you can see that from last year to this year, we did go up to 41.5 million in our ending fund balance. So we're getting up there. We're thinking about the 30-year CalSTRS catastrophe. The other piece of data I shared with you in conjunction with this was the AMOs. So we're looking at increasing our ending fund balance. At the same time, we have about 40% of our kids who aren't proficient in English, 50% of our kids who are not proficient in English, and about 40 not proficient in math. So I would just like to draw your attention to the CalSTRS catastrophe that's going to take place in 7, 10, 15, 30 years, and the current KID catastrophe of the number of kids who are not proficient. If we have a manageable ending fund balance, as we appear to have, we don't need to keep putting money in it. We need to keep spending more money on kids. Thank you.
Nikki Malevsky, President of Sacramento City Teachers Association. I'd like to draw your attention to page 48, number 10, plan description, talking about the cost of retiree health benefits. It says, district teachers qualify for these benefits after attaining age 55 with at least 5 years of consecutive service to the district, comma, age 50 with 30 years of service if a member prior to January 1, 2013, comma, or approved disability retirement with 5 years of service. SCT is deeply concerned about the inaccuracies of this statement. It does not reflect any contract, to my knowledge, that has ever existed with SCTA. Our prior long-standing contract had been 55 with 10 years of service. And in 2010, we drastically changed that requirement for vesting and lifetime benefits to 20 years if you were 55 to retire, and a sliding scale that you could retire at age 60 with only 15 years of service. That's quite a bit of a difference. Plus, you can't retire at age 50, period, unless it's a disability retirement. So if you're calculating the unfunded liability numbers on this kind of information, you are millions and millions of dollars off of that calculation. And these kind of inaccuracies are deeply disturbing, and we would like to see them changed immediately. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Grace Trujillo. I know this is a very difficult subject, and I know when I started with the state 20 years ago, they talked about these unfunded liabilities. Reality's kicking in, and I think in the next decade or two, it's going to happen. I know the Great Depression, the stock market crash, and then the real estate crash as well too, and people were just hyping it up and saying all these wonderful things, and everybody was blaming each other back and forth. I know for the accounting purposes of it, it's just information that you're gathering, you know, and saying it's correct. But these unfunded liabilities, I'm glad that they're putting them in because it's a problem nationwide, and we need to be prepared for it. The sooner we accept what's going on and how to address it, the better it is. I know airlines like Pan Am retired, all these different retirement and pensions, even Campbell Soup that's just nearby us, did the same thing. I know for me, I'm planning ahead. You know, I'm also, I told my husband, you know what, I'm taking the enrolled agent, I'm thinking about a different job because even though I have a retirement for the state, I know it's not going to be there. It's better to plan, make modifications, and plan for the future. In our situation, our kids are the ones that are being affected. And they're the ones that are going to be struggling. They're the ones that are our future. If we can't educate them and we're going back and forth and blaming people and going back, they're going to be the affected ones. So as I mentioned before, every day I come to these board meetings, I carry my rosary. And you know what? I'm a person with great faith. And what I ask today, and I'll ask every single day, is to move people's hearts, to see the direction, and for us to work together for the common sake of our kids and our future. Thank you.
Any more, Gabe? Member Rodriguez?
I didn't expect to be the first one.
The only one.
My light was turned off. I'm just going to go with the low-hanging fruit on this one because I did find it very interesting to see in the audit report the new section of the free and reduced lunch students and whatnot. And I'm not quite wrapping my head around that just yet. So we had an adjustment of 441 students altogether, which equal to about 278,000. I mean, it's very immaterial in terms of our totality of the budget. Right. But again,
This came about because of Prop 30 and the LCFF. How did this come up?
Wow. Let me see. I can answer that. So this is one of the cases where the federal law and the state law don't agree. So we have been doing a free and reduced counts for many years based on the federal law, right? Free and reduced counts, and then the LCF come rules, and they're still clarifying those rules. So for instance, under the federal law, the students who were free and reduced on the prior year, they automatically roll over as free and reduced for next year, and we had 30 days to change it. We started school in September. We had to report by October 2nd. So we start after. So those, when we reported, we report under the old law because we had always done it that way. And it just took us a long time to clarify the rules. And I believe that the editors, we were in communication. We were trying to clear this finding, what it is. And I think it's like a week before that, the state give us the rules. We need to put this finding. Because I thought it was just like, oh, you don't even know the questions. You don't even know what you're asking. And now you give me a finding. Yes, I mean, I just say that. And then, so that's what it comes through. What I can tell you is that we have a process now for next year because we know what to do. It is my fault, the district's fault, it's a responsibility, but that's how this funding come about. And it's students give us that funding out of many that they test. It still seems unfair to me, but we don't make the rules. We comply, and I know they work hard, they work with us. So that's where the funding, that's what is the funding from the district perspective. And I don't know how anything you need to add. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the state was trying to think of a way to test the different factors that were going to go into this percentage that was basically driving your LCFF calculation. One of those tests is your free and reduced status of students. And like Gerardo was saying, typically you'd have, if a student was free and reduced by their application in the prior year, that they would have 30 days, they would just roll forward automatically in the next year as that status, even if maybe they were no longer that status, so that way, they had a grace period, make sure they're still getting meals if they needed, et cetera. Well, the state came up with a reporting tool, it's a CalPADS report, and it was pulling the information. However, the district, because they were following the way that they had typically done their reporting, all of the forms and everything in those reports hadn't been updated by the time that the state needed that information. And so students who may have qualified as free and reduced last year but no longer qualified this year, there wasn't a current, we have to actually see the application and see that information saying, yes, they are free and reduced. So 8 of the students were automatically rolled forward as that status, but they didn't, in the current year, they shouldn't have been. So there was just this timing discrepancy in the way that the district had typically calculated all that information because it was never needed in your funding module. It was never needed for LCFF because it didn't exist.
Now, can you tell me, is there a different threshold in terms of qualifying for free and reduced lunch between the state? Is there another conflict between the state and the feds?
No, the threshold is the same. Okay. Yes, the reporting is I think, like I say, it's now we have to do the work for the federal and the work for the state because it's one of those cases where the laws don't agree. And since the majority of the funding is from the state, and but we also get funding from the feds, we need to do both.
So it's LCFF added work, more work on top of all of this.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, LCFF.
For you too.
Yeah,
yes.
It should have worked. Yes. I mean, they changed some rules, and there's a lot of things about that we like it, but yes, a lot of work for that.
Yeah. It was a learning experience.
When we reduced that number down, and later on, it's, I think, like you said, it was on page 110,
I think, 110.
110.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. The 75.40 was what we reported, and then what we actually were 74.34. And that number will be used for next year's LCFF,
It will
or
be-
how does that work?
Yeah, it will be an average. So the way that LCFF works, you use the prior year and current years, and you create an average. So we will have, because this is an added finding. So for 14-15, we will take the new 34 plus the rate that we calculate for this year, and we'll divide it by 2, and that will be our new unduplicated count to calculate the LCFF. That's and then for the next year will be 3 years, and then one goes off and keep going.
Big mess. Well, thank you for taking the responsibility, and being honest about that. It is very new, and thank you also for bringing that up, because I actually had it highlighted. It was one of those things that I had a question on, so you jumped ahead of me. You try to predict what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, hard to miss. But yeah, and like I said, that $278,000, there is a possibility that the state may waive that and not even require you guys to lose funding. Like I said, there was a lot of districts that had this kind of issue. So
Maybe not, because if they want money back, they'll probably ask us to give it back.
you never know.
Yeah, never know.
Silver lining, maybe.
Now, on page 86, I'm looking at the corrective action plan, and that's mainly with the SBA, the student body accounts.
Yes.
That's been I think it's been a 2-year ongoing item, and it's been partially implemented. What is outstanding, and what is the plan on a go-forward basis?
So with ASB, part of the issue is that we choose new sites every year that we look at. And so if it was findings last year for a set of sites, we don't look at the same site each year for testing, so you're going to get a whole new cycle in. And you guys have a lot of sites. So that's really what it comes down to. It's even down to small districts, it's very rare not to have an ASB finding because it's cash handling and it's at the sites, and the districts don't have direct, hand control on that. So providing trainings, I know the district has provided trainings, trying to train up the ASB accountants or whoever may be at the site, the principals most importantly, because they are the ones who have the absolute responsibility over those funds. So that kind of thing, but that's why you're going to see it. You'll probably see it next year too. It's just with the cycle of site visits.
So now that you say that, it brings a little bit more clarity around the issue. So in its totality, like when I was studying it last year, I thought it was pretty immaterial. I mean, we mostly looked at high schools, which has a higher base of ASB coming in. But in its totality, would it ever get to rise to the occasion of being material?
It is. We look at things on an opining unit, so into auditor speak. We look at all of your funds on an opining unit basis. So the agency funds, your ASB funds, are lumped in with all of your other non-majors. So the materiality threshold there is very high. So from our perspective, I can't imagine it getting up to a really material amount. The times when I've actually had districts where it became material was when we couldn't verify anything. Maybe the records were completely missing, and that's when you really run into issues with ASB. But the chances of it becoming a really material issue is I won't say slim, but slim.
It doesn't rise up to it. So then going with material versus non-material, on page 81, there's a whole 3 paragraphs talking about your report on internal controls, and that's basically what you were auditing with the ASB, is the issue of internal controls, whether there was appropriate records and cash handling and whatnot. At what point would you consider something then to be materially enough to report on? Not monetary wise, in terms of internal control wise.
So as in a material weakness? The material weakness is driven by our materiality. So if we think there's a potential risk out there that with these controls failing, that it would be material to that opining unit, and those are numbers that we never share with anybody. So I can't really tell you what that is.
Oh, come on.
Those
it's a Foursquare thing.
Yeah. So the internal control material weakness would have to have the potential of reaching that level. So, and ultimately with the ASB funds, the ins and outs, there's issues with documenting what's coming in, and a lot of times it's, the fundraising approvals and that kind of thing. It's not always necessarily a finding over the cash disbursement, or, sometimes the findings are just about compliance with what they should be doing as far as ASB is concerned.
Thank you. Those are the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get into the numbers part of it. On page 7, and this is pretty much repeated throughout all your other financial statements that you have. The total net position is one of the numbers that I've been diligent about looking at over the past 6 years that I've been sitting here on this board. And I've seen it change, and actually change now to the worse in terms of negative numbers. So we have a $20.5 million deficit now in our total net position. A lot of that is because I think it's GASB
45,
where we have to report. We can no longer let it fall off the top level budget. So we have 2 new board members that have just been sworn in. Can you explain why we look like that now, and not next year? How we're talking about next year is going to be a little different. A lot different.
A lot different. Yeah. So if you go over to page 45, because the largest reason of why that is upside down right now is you've got page 45 has your summary of long-term debt. And there's a significant amount of bonds that are in there. Well, that money is going to be invested into building capital assets. So as that debt starts dropping, you're also going to be building up an asset. So that's going to kind of help offset and build up that net position a little bit more. However, you've got that net OPEB liability that keeps increasing. It's increasing by, what is that, like 30 million this year. It's going to keep increasing, and coming down the pipeline, you're going to actually have to report that entire liability really soon. In addition to that liability, you're going to have to start posting your CalSTRS and CalPERS liability next year. Those are also going to be very large dollars. So even though you're going to build up your capital assets, your buildings, your modernization of your sites, the technology, all that kind of stuff shows up in your capital assets. Those liabilities that are going to be coming on the books is just going to drop that net position down further.
How does that affect us on the market? Like when we want to do some refunding and of our bonds, like we just did last board meeting. So how does that affect us on the market?
A lot of times the funding agencies, it gives them concern when you have negative net positions. However, you also have to keep in mind that with GASB 68 coming out, every single state agency is going to have this issue. So their rules are going to probably change a little bit when they're looking at you. So I couldn't really speak exactly to what they're going to do. It's not going to put you in the best light, but they're also going to be looking at all the governmental agencies as a whole and how they're sitting.
Along that same thread, in terms of how we're going to be looked at, but how the board also has to behave. On page 12, I find it extremely intriguing of the last paragraph that you have under financial issues. Do you mind if you just read that aloud to the board, so that way we reiterate what that paragraph says, and then maybe we can have a broader discussion if any board members have concern?
Sure. That's management's discussion and analysis, but I can read it. The last paragraph or the
last paragraph. Funding is, however,
only part of the equation. Declining enrollment, increased operating expenses, and uncertain future state resources are the key issues facing the Sacramento City Unified School District. The development of future budgets will be influenced by external variables such as the state budget and enrollment changes. Internal factors of compensation and number of employees must be commensurate with the number of students. Sacramento City Unified School District must be vigilant in monitoring all expenditures to avoid fiscal distress.
So that's basically saying that we're on the verge of still of fiscal distress, if not, I mean, we just barely are making it by the skin of our teeth, just this last interim budget that we reviewed. So there's no room for error in judgment on this board. So one thing could really throw us in for a loop. So if we have opportunities to generate revenue, which we should, then we need to do it with an extraordinary amount of due diligence, correct? What else should we be considering with this statement and with the audit in its totality in terms of being vigilant over our fiscal picture?
Well, that question kind of takes me outside of the scope of what I'm hired to do. I wouldn't really feel comfortable giving any sort of statement on that because then it would kind of be construed as advice that I'm not really licensed or set up to give. If you don't mind me passing on that question.
Okay. We might have a sidebar.
Yeah, that's fine. All right.
All righty. In respect to the public comment that we got from the group of Making Sense work on page 15, that's the first occurrence where I see that basically $41.5 million general fund balance. What impact is that total in our budget? Why is that number significant or maybe even insignificant to look at?
The total fund balance in general fund?
On page 15.
Well, a lot of times you want to look at that. Well, again, I don't really want to speak into your budget process and how you would use that fund balance. You do want to consider the fact that you have only an unassigned fund balance of about almost $18 million, and you look at the amount of payroll that you have and keep in mind about how much that would cover if something did go wrong and you only have 1 month's payroll maybe sitting there and not even. So that kind of thing, I would think about that as you're looking at those numbers. But I would let Gerardo talk to that.
Well, that is, we are very happy that increase, but that is not even a half of our payroll to that $17 million. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that we became positive for 14-15 because we have increased our fund balance and we can able to project for the next couple of years that we will be able to make it. So we have additional budget reductions.
Again, it goes back to what we said on page 12 in terms of being diligent about our budgeting, and that's part of it.
Yes.
And I think that those are all the questions that I have tagged. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Is there any other of my colleagues who have any questions? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on then to item 11, business and financial information reports. We are receiving the information of business and financial information, the purchase orders for the period October 15th through November 14th. We're receiving early Head Start reports. Item 12.0, future board meetings, dates and locations. January 8th, 2015, 4:30 here for closed session, 6:30 for open. January 22nd, 2015, 4:30 for closed session, 6:30 for open session. Before we move to adjourn, I'd like to congratulate my new colleagues here on the board. And I would like to express that please feel free to reach out to any and all of us, so long as it does not violate the Brown Act. And before we adjourn, I would like to wish everyone watching, everyone here, happy holidays and enjoy your holidays. Wait. Okay, so now item 13, adjournment.
I would like to take a moment before we adjourn the meeting to take a moment of silence for Principal Medina from Cesar Chavez High School, elementary school, who recently passed away. Thank you. I'd like to honor and adjourn this meeting to him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.